What really holds a belief system together? I'm not talking about just in theory, but in the day-to-day reality of someone's life. Like, how does faith actually become action? Well, for over 1 billion Muslims around the world, the answer is this incredible practical framework, the 5 pillars of Islam. So let's dive in and really see how they work.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the big picture, the overall framework. Then, we're going to tackle each of the 5 pillars one by one: the testimony, the prayer, the charity, the fast, and finally, the pilgrimage. It's basically our roadmap for understanding how belief is put into practice every single day.
Okay, so let's start with that big picture. Because these pillars, they're not just some abstract, lofty ideas, right? They're designed to be real, hands-on, daily expressions of faith. They're meant to engage your entire being, your mind, your body, and your spirit.
Yeah, I want you to think of them literally as pillars, like the kind that hold up a building. But in this case, the building is a Muslim's spiritual life. They're there to provide support and balance. And what's really cool is how they range from things you do every single day, like prayer, all the way to a journey you might only take once in your entire life, like the pilgrimage.
Okay, and here's the core idea that I think makes this framework so powerful. These pillars, they're not just a random to-do list of rituals. Nope. Each one is specifically designed to tackle a core human challenge. Things like distraction, ego, greed, all the stuff that can really get in the way of a person's spiritual development. And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out perfectly. Think of this as our explainer in a snapshot. See, on the left, you've got the pillar, and on the right, you've got the spiritual benefit it delivers. So, testifying to your faith, that brings freedom. Prayer, that cuts through distraction. Charity fights off attachment. Fasting builds self-control. And the pilgrimage, that's all about dismantling racism. It's brilliant, really. Okay, let's unpack each one. All right, let's jump into our first pillar and see how this all builds up. We're starting with the Shahada, the testimony of faith. This is the verbal commitment. It's literally the foundation that everything else stands on.
So what is it exactly? Well, the Shahada is this really simple but incredibly profound declaration. It's got 2 parts. First, you testify that there is no God but the one God, Allah. And second, you testify that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger.
Let's break that down a bit more. That first part, La ilaha illallah, it's essentially a declaration of freedom. It's about detaching yourself from all those other things that try to be your master, whether that's power or money or even your own ego. Then that second part, Muhammadur Rasulallah, that gives you a trusted guide. It gives you a human model to follow for how to actually live out that life of faith. And you can really feel how central this testimony is from a saying of the Prophet Muhammad himself. He described this declaration as the key that unlocks paradise. I mean, it doesn't get more fundamental than that. It's the starting point for absolutely everything. Okay, so from that foundation of belief, we move right into the daily practice of prayer, or salat. And there's a beautiful logic here. If the Shahada frees you from earthly masters, then salat is the tool that frees you from earthly distractions, moment by moment. Now, this is a big commitment, praying 5 times a day. And you might be asking, why so often? Well, it's because we're human and we're forgetful, right? We get so caught up in work, in life, in all our daily stuff. Salat is like a built-in reset button. It forces you to stop, to detach, to remember God, and to refocus on what your life is really all about. And the physical movements themselves, they're so deeply symbolic. You start by standing with your hands together. It's a sign that says, I'm ready to submit. Then you go into bowing, which is an even deeper level of submission, a way to kind of break the ego. And then finally you have prostration, placing your forehead on the ground. That is the ultimate expression of humility and submission to God. And there's this incredible saying from the Prophet Muhammad that just perfectly captures the power of that final movement. He said that the closest a person is to their Lord is when they are in prostration. So in that moment of complete physical humility, you're at your absolute spiritual peak. It's a powerful idea. All right, next up we have zakat, or charity. This pillar takes on one of our most common human attachments, doesn't it? Our love for stuff, for possessions and money. Zakat is the practice designed to purify a person's wealth. So zakat is a mandatory annual charity. If you're able to, the requirement is to give 2.5% of your accumulated wealth to people who need it.
And the mindset behind it is really key. It's a recognition that all the wealth you have is ultimately just a trust from God. It's not something you truly own.
So here's the transformation that happens. The act of giving just tackles that human challenge of greed head on. It forces you to turn the focus away from yourself and instead cultivates the spiritual solution, generosity and compassion for other people. It's amazing because it purifies the giver from selfishness, and it purifies the person receiving it from potential feelings of envy. Everyone benefits.
Okay, let's move on to our fourth pillar, Psalm, which is fasting. And again, you can see the logic here. If zakat is all about disciplining our attachment to external things like money, Psalm is about disciplining our internal impulses.
So this is the practice that many people know about, fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. And it means for a whole month, from dawn all the way until sunset, Muslims abstain from food, drink, and other physical pleasures. But, and this is so important, the goal here goes way beyond just not eating or drinking. By consciously getting a handle on your most basic human appetites, you're actually training yourself to master, well, yourself. The real point is to build this powerful muscle of self-restraint, one that you can then use against all sorts of destructive impulses all year long.
And that brings us to our final pillar, the fifth one, the Hajj, or pilgrimage. This is often the culmination of an entire lifetime of faith. And it's an incredibly powerful antidote to some of our most persistent human problems, things like racism and division.
So the Hajj is a pilgrimage to the Kaaba in the city of Makkah. It's something Muslims are required to do once in their lives, but, and this is a key detail, only if they are physically and financially able to make the journey.
And what's just so profound about this journey is its incredible power to create unity. You have millions of people from every single corner of the globe, every race, every color, every social status, and they all come together dressed in these simple white cloths. In that moment, all the distinctions of wealth and class just disappear. It is a living, breathing demonstration of human equality before God.
So when you step back and look at them all together, the testimony, the prayer, the charity, the fasting, and the pilgrimage, you can really see how they create this complete, holistic framework for living. And that leaves us with the final question to think about. As a daily framework, how might these 5 practices truly shape a person's perspective on, well, on everything? Their life's purpose, their relationship with wealth, and their connection to the entire global community.